Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I am going to be taking you through my April and my May reads in this video. Honestly, time has just got away with me. I've been like so busy, so I didn't have time to do a designated April one. So I just thought rather than skip it, we just merge it all together. And also with the busyness, I have not read as much. I have read a few longer books, which has also probably impacted the number. But yeah, so over the 2 months I have read 9 books. Yeah, so that's not that bad actually. So yeah, so the first book of April was The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. This is the second book in the Nightborn duet. Technically third book because there is a novella in the middle. However, the novella follows different characters, so it doesn't really count as part of the duology. So this directly follows on from the first book, Serpent, Wings and Night. And it's essentially just exploring, I suppose, the aftermath. If you haven't read the first book, I would advise clicking off or skipping ahead. Araya's father has just been killed by Rain at the end of the last book, and then he forces her into a marriage. So she is initially trying to figure out how to take him down, get her crown back, but kind of as the story goes on, you realise there is kind of that relationship underneath. And yeah, they're kind of just battling with different things. So with Rain, because he was a slave, his people don't necessarily want him as a king. He's the first king that has been a slave and a human previously. And then Araya is a human, well, half human, half vampire. And so it's kind of just them figuring stuff out. There's an assassination attempt, a rebellion, all sorts of just kind of power struggles. In all honesty, hand on heart, I can't remember all of the ins and outs, all the details. I remember really enjoying it because I have given it a 4.25 stars. So in the moment, immediately after finishing, I clearly really enjoyed it. But thinking back now to 2 months ago, the start of April, I really just can't pinpoint everything that happened. So I feel like that's probably all I have to say on it, but as a whole, the duology, really, really good. Would highly recommend for anyone who is into the fantasy and romantasy as well. And I will most definitely be reading the rest of kind of the universe of the other books at some point. We'll get around to it. So after The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, I went on to read After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Anyone who has read any Taylor Jenkins Reid, you'll just know, even if you've not read this book, you just can't go wrong. I've not had a bad book by her before. This one was basically around a couple who, I don't remember now if they'd been married or if they were just together, I think married, for a few years, but things were kind of starting to go wrong. They were starting to not really enjoy being around each other, living together, having their life together, and they decide to go on a 1-year break, absolutely no contact, move out and not see each other for a year, and basically see if that saves the relationship or not. Yeah, I was so hooked. You can definitely tell the writing because it is one of Taylor's older books. The writing isn't quite as, I don't know if sophisticated is the right word, but as some of her more recent writing. But it had me gripped. I was so invested in the characters, in what was going to happen, so intrigued. And I think I'm pretty sure I remember smashing this one out in a matter of days. So I rated this one a 4-star. So again, really, really good book. Would highly recommend if you're into that kind of thing. It was a nice, easy read. I think that's what I'd say. It was just enjoyable. Then I moved on to another book from a friend from work, and this one was The Serial Killer's Wife. I believe it's by Alice Hunter, but please don't quote me, just in case I've got that wrong. And this one I did actually just have to Google before filming this video, just to refresh my mind, remind myself what it was about. But essentially they are a married couple and the police come to the door to arrest him, and comes out that it's for murder, and then as it goes on, it is that there are multiple murders and he is getting arrested for being a serial killer. Loads of evidence stacking up against him. I gave this one a 3.75, but thinking back, I'm actually not sure if I would rate it that highly anymore, and that is on the basis of I couldn't remember a thing about it. It's clearly not made an impact on me. Really, like, even though there was plot twists in it, like, it completely shocked me what ended up happening. It just hasn't made much of an impression. But that's not to say it wasn't a good book. I would still recommend. It was fast-paced, it was gripping. Again, like I say, the plot twists really did throw me off. Then moved on to some light-hearted books. I read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren while we were in Cornwall. And Christina Lauren, if you don't know, it's actually two best friends that write together, Christina and Lauren, which I just think is such a fun concept, such an amazing idea. And this is my first book of theirs that I've read, and yeah, it was just so fun. I think that's how I'd sum it up, just fun, light-hearted, and really enjoyable. So it was just what I wanted for while we were in Cornwall. And it's essentially a maid of honour and a best man who hate each other. At the wedding, everyone gets food poisoning apart from those two because they don't eat the food. So the bride and groom say, look, we've got an all expenses paid for honeymoon. We now can't go on it and we'll lose all our money. Go, you guys are the only people, fine. So they basically go on this holiday having hated each other. And you can probably guess what happens. But I really enjoyed this one. I also gave this a 3.75, which I think kind of just shows what I've just been saying. So really good, really enjoyable, but you could probably predict what was going to happen. It's your typical kind of rom-com story. So nothing absolutely out of this world you've never read before that's going to like be the most incredible book ever. But it was just good fun. It was like summery, light-hearted. So if you're wanting something like that, I would highly recommend. And then I started The Wedding People. So I took this with us to Cornwall, even though it is set in America. They're obviously staying at the Cornwall Inn. So when I'd read that on the blurb, I don't know, I was like, I have to read this while we're in Cornwall, or at least start it. But for those of you that haven't heard of The Wedding People, you must, I think, have been living under a rock, because it went pretty viral last year. I remember hearing so many people talk about it. Whenever I walked into Waterstones, it was like everywhere. But I only got around to getting a copy a bit earlier on this year, and then obviously only read it quite recently. And I will say it lives up to the hype, in my opinion. It is just a really quite a heartfelt story, but alongside lots and lots of laughter, lots of comedy throughout it, but a story with some real meaning behind it. It tugged at the heartstrings quite a bit. The start of the book especially is a little bit sad, but it ends up picking up, and just a really nice, just a really nice story. I don't really know how much more to say about it. A real story about friendship, about love that isn't always necessarily a romantic love. Highly recommend. I can't remember if I've already said the star rating or not, but I gave this one 4.5 stars. It didn't quite get to a 5-star read for me, but it was very close. Anyway, after this, I started the reread, guys. It was time. So I just read these two. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. And again, for those of you that have not seen or heard of these books, honestly, where have you been? Even if you've not read them, you must know that they exist. So those of you that don't know, Sarah J Maas is releasing the next books in the series later this year in October, and then another in January. So I want to reread the entire the entire universe before then. So that is basically pretty much everything on this shelf except that book there. So I've just read these two for now. I've got quite a bit to go. I must have given them star ratings, I imagine, when I first read them, and I can't actually remember what that will have been. But on these rereads, I have given ACOTAR a 4-star and A Court of Mist and Fury 5. I mean, you can't not give Mist and Fury a 5, in my opinion. So yeah, ACOTAR, really, really good book. For the first book, some people think it's boring, but I remember the first time reading it, I got engrossed straight away. I absolutely loved it from the get-go. And I did have the same thing this time. I just think the world building, I thought personally was really, really amazing. And I was just so invested from pretty much page 1. It's probably because I know what's coming. That's probably why. It doesn't get a 5-star for me because it is it's the start of the story. So you've got so much more to go. So for me, it just can't possibly get to a 5-star because you don't have that full impact, if that makes sense. However, Court of Mist and Fury is just so good. So good. Those of you that know, and it is deserving of the 5-star completely. Get these books read if you haven't, and just enjoy the experience, because I wish I could go back in time and read these all for the first time again and feel all those emotions. Anyway, I then, like I say, have had a bit of a break from the Sarah J Maas universe, and I moved on to some Elsie Silver instead. So I read Powerless, and I absolutely loved this. I think, is it my favourite one so far? I don't know. It's up there. It got a 4.25 stars, which again, I think for the type of book, I struggle to rate romance books a 5-star because in comparison to some like epic thrillers and fantasies, I just don't think it's anywhere near. But then, I don't know, we're gonna get off on a tangent. Anyway, this book is about Jasper and Sloane. They have been friends since they were children. So Sloane is a cousin of the kind of family, the brothers, that this all revolves around this entire series. She is their cousin, and Jasper is kind of an adoptive son, like not formally, but they just took him in. There's no actual relation, but he has just lived with them since he was a child. So every summer and stuff, they knew each other, they were best friends, now in adult life, and it's kind of the friendship takes a bit of a turn towards romance. And the backstories to both of these characters and everything that was going on, I just loved them. I was so incredibly invested for it to work out. And Jasper's story, especially Jasper's backstory, just like tore my heart out, ripped it to pieces. And yeah, highly recommend. I think you do have to read the series because you've obviously got characters and stuff from the previous books mentioned a lot. So I would read the first two, and I think by the time you've read the first one, you're going to read the rest of the books because they're all amazing. But yeah, highly recommend. I am now reading the next book in the series, Reckless, because after I finished this, I couldn't part with the universe and the characters. So highly recommend. Read these if you haven't already. I then wanted to give kind of an honorary mention, that might sound a bit weird, to this book here, If I Had My Time Again, and this is by an author called Linda Green. So I've just finished this at the end of May, but I was reading it alongside this, kind of at the same time. I was reading this one kind of at home, and this one was in my work bag, and I was reading it in the office on the bus. This is one a friend from work lent me, and it is based in Halifax, so with us being from Leeds, obviously quite close to home. This book is kind of an afterlife story, so some people it might not be your kind of thing, which is completely understandable. I'm just going to read the blurb for you, so that will be the easiest way to kind of explain. How would you live your life differently if you had a second chance? Emily, Carl and Jules have all gone before their time. After dying on the same day in Halifax, West Yorkshire, they each wake up in a room in a hotel on the outskirts of town. They are instructed to meet in the basement headquarters of film production company End Credits, where no-nonsense producer Susie tells them their lives have been secretly filmed and they must edit their own biopic before they are able to move on. There are only 3 rules. They can't prevent their own deaths or anyone else's. They can't kill anyone, but they can make a director's cut. One change which will alter everything that comes after. With the chance to undo their regrets and explore life's infinite possibilities, what will they choose? So this, I kind of had mixed feelings about, to be honest. I think the development of the characters and their relationships, I really loved the way you really got to know each of these individuals, and in quite a short amount of time, because it's not a big book, really felt like you understood everything that they had gone through in their lives. It was multiple perspectives, so you'd have a character, another, and then switch back and you'd cycle through all 3 characters, which I think helped that a lot because you got into all of their minds. And interesting way of thinking about death and things that might come after. I'm not going to get too much into that, into beliefs and everything. So obviously in this perspective it is that there is an afterlife, and essentially this director's cut that they can make to their life story changes everyone who is still alive. So however that plays out, that changes everything going on in real life with people that are still alive, and their lives then take a different trajectory depending on that decision that was made. So if you're open to reading about the concept of an afterlife, I would really recommend this because it is just a really interesting story. Like, I've never read anything like it before. But where I was saying I had some mixed feelings, there just were some bits that are a bit questionable of like, realistically this wouldn't happen. Some flaws in the story. And then at the end, something that happens and we start thinking, well, surely the others could have done that too. At least one of them, I'm pretty sure, could have done something. So there's a few plot holes, that's the thing. For me, there's a few plot holes where I would have liked a bit more explanation of how this was possible. And also the point of it, they were kind of saying it was to find peace before you moved on. But part of me was kind of like, what's the point? Like, why is it? Anyway, those are the more negative thoughts, but overall I did really enjoy it. And I hadn't actually given this a star rating yet. I think it would end on like a 3.25 maybe a 3.5. Because like I say, it's really thought-provoking, and again, just so invested in the characters, the way it was written, like I say, getting really in all their heads. I really felt quite close to them, quite emotionally attached to them. But then a few of the flaws obviously brought it down a little bit. But anyway, those are the 9 books that I have read over the last couple of months, and I am reading some other good ones. Like I say, got the next Elsie Silver, then be continuing A Court of Thorns and Roses, so we'll see how long that takes. And probably will read a few more before I get on to Throne of Glass. So across June, hopefully got some more good books that I'll be reading, and we'll catch up with you at that point to let you know what I thought of them all. So I really hope you've enjoyed this one. If you've read any of these or you're interested to know a little bit more, pop a comment down below. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. I really hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you next time.